Hello guys, this is Oleg from ICO and here is Daryl. We just finished Block VC event and Daryl had a nice presentation. Daryl is a CEO of the Certik project. It's a pleasure to meet you. You had a really nice presentation when you said that Certik is not a sexy project. It's really important for the ecosystem to see such projects right now. Please introduce yourself. I know that you joined Certik recently. And what's Certik is all about, like in 2 sentences, before we will go deeper in your news and updates.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really excited. You did a great presentation as well, so
Thank you.
I'm happy to chat. On our side, so Certik, we offer the most scalable, the most comprehensive, and the fastest turnaround for formal verification of smart contracts as well as blockchains on the main nets. So we have an auto-scan system that we just released, which is able to run through different token projects, look through the smart contracts, and then determine whether they hit some critical vulnerabilities or not. We recently did a report. We ran through 500 token projects. We identified that 53 of them had vulnerabilities. Some were very critical, others were a little bit minor, and it only took us 3 hours. So that scalability.
3 hours for the whole process of scaling.
Yes, right, exactly. So 300 for the whole process. That level of scalability is why we work with investors to do technical due diligence. We work with advisors to help figure out how to do projects in the right way, or more so, how to avoid common pitfalls. We work with the projects themselves, obviously, and we work with exchanges who really want to up the legitimacy of the tokens that they list. So they recommend us as a preferred auditor to make sure that our results are objective, fully automated on this side, as well as scalable. And so they can be trusted from a third-party source without having to rely on maybe a smart auditor or a smart individual coding the project.
I think that Russian community pretty much aware of your team and experience, because we've made a lot of reports, not a lot of, but I think series of reports about your project. Can you please describe right now, there is in security like a stream of a lot of projects. Not all of them are successful. This is like difficult stream for any project right now to be successful. From like the CEO of the company, what do you think? What's the key options of the Certik to be successful in the near future?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's a great observation. The way I would see it is that blockchain is like any other industry where these are legitimate companies where you could focus on just going a full sprint, but a lot of times what misses out is the fundamentals of building a company. And so where I came from was in a DC tech company. We had over 50 million in investments. Some of the biggest players like Mark Cuban, Winklevoss, Ren, and things like that. And so what I'm bringing to the table, and that's why I was excited to join, was because I've been through a company that's scaled in the past. I'm excited to put it on our side. So work on the fundamentals, starting from the slow end of things, so slow down to speed up. And I think that's something that's oftentimes missed, and it's really just working on the hype. But the hype will go away, it'll come back, it's like waves, and I think really the success is going to be based off of who has sustainability, who's put in the right checks, who has the right processes, and then how can you run a legitimate company versus a hype train or anything like that.
We have a lot of rumors about your like partnership with different exchanges like Binance. So I have 2 questions in one maybe. What's the business you have with the Binance Labs? I know that you invested in Certik. So what exactly you are doing for the exchange? And the second one, what's your business model like? In the future, are you going to do some paid services for the projects, or you will do it like in a collaboration of with some funds or exchanges maybe, and they will provide some revenue stream to you? What's your business model for what you will take money, and with whom will you work in this like stream of business?
On our side, I'll talk more broadly about this. Yes. So Binance is an investor on our side, and we work with them to make sure the audits of their token projects that they're going to list are legitimate, as well as to make sure that they themselves are safe and reach the standards that they want. And in terms of the models, the pricing models, and the way we work in these engagements, a lot of it is custom, because whether it's a project that needs an integration of our services as a layer to let smart contracts in or like not let them in.
Model, yes?
Yes, like a continuous model, kind of like a gate, to say that if your smart contract hits these vulnerabilities, then you're not allowed into the ecosystem. So we work on some of those projects, and you saw some today. And then we also work on to actually audit the smart contracts themselves, as to do a token distribution, to make sure that when they distribute the tokens, some of these common errors are not found there, to really put it through a bulletproof engine to make sure it's secure. secure. So it varies. And we also work with media firms to do the research on the technical side because it's usually very opaque to see what's going on in code. It's open source code, which means everyone has access to it, but sometimes it's hard to determine, especially for less technical eyes, what does this code really mean? So on our end, we could put it through our engine, come up with a result, and then show what does it mean, how legitimate is the verification, how skilled was it coded, and that tells a lot about the team.
So with your bunch of experience, with your the team is really nice and you have a lot of experience in this area, why did you decide to make an ICO and community-based project? Because it seems like it can be a very successful business without any tokens, community, and all of that stuff. Why do you need community? How do you use it? How will you use it in your work?
Yeah, on our side, what we see is that this is just the beginning in a space. So smart contracts are only going to get bigger and bigger. So the way that we use our token is to incentivize a scalable model for running the proofs that are needed to make sure that the verification is legitimate. And so we use the deep spec technology, patented. It's a collaboration between MIT, Yale, Princeton, and UPenn. That applies a machine learning layer to label the different areas of the code. And those are individual proofs that we could send to different computers. And so at that point, if you think about Bitcoin right now, you break through a hash, you do some processing, but the processing doesn't do anything. On our side, instead of doing processing just to do processing, we process proofs. And so as more and more smart contracts across the globe for different use cases are created, then you have an engine to run through the processing, compiling it together on our end with our patented technology to make sure that these audits are legitimate. So it helps distribute the work across different computers around the world.
And what's the incentives for the community to be inside of your platform and to run all of this work?
We have different models within, and so it's all on our white paper. But for instance, there's different bounties. So formal verification is a space that, surprisingly so, is not new. It's been around since the 70s, but it's really blown up because blockchain is a decentralized use case of it. But our technology is, so our first fully verified multi-core operating system, Certik OS, is used by the US military, for instance. So that's because it's mission critical. You can't get that wrong because it's too dangerous otherwise, so you have to make sure that you're unhackable. You could be used for doing what you're saying you're going to do. So as it pertains to the ecosystem, we want to further that space by putting bounties to say, hey, if you develop these different libraries, you further the space there, then you will be rewarded, and to make sure that people enter this formal verification world, because it's going to only increase legitimacy on these mission-critical engineering efforts.
What are the next steps do you have in your process of crowd sale, fundraising?
On our side, we're in active development, so it's heads down, really trying to make sure that we do it in the right way. And this goes into the fundamentals of the company before just going full sprint to make sure that we are sustainable and we're prepared for a longer winter or the next boom. We want to make sure that we have that in place. So I would say follow us on Telegram, follow us on Medium and the different social media. We're actively saying our new partnerships that we have, just different engagements, some updates, some research papers, and we're working with a lot of big players in the space to make sure that across the board it's recognized to up to the legitimacy of security, and really make sure and highlight that it is very important, and we would hope that the projects, the ecosystem as a whole, take it very seriously.
It was a pleasure to meet you, and hope you will show nice progress in your development. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you for having me.